Imagine standing at the base of a mountain. The peak is hidden in clouds, and the path is unclear. But you know this: the summit is not somewhere outside. The summit is within. Every step forward is not a movement through space. It is a movement inward, into the very depths of who you are. But as we walk this path to self-mastery, there are forces often invisible that pull us off course, like winds tugging at a flame. The first of these winds is sensual desire. It is the craving for pleasure, the restless search for satisfaction through the senses. A taste, a touch, a sight, a sound, each one a spark, igniting a longing that seems endless. And so we chase, endlessly, what feels good. But understand this: a cup that is constantly being filled with sugar eventually overflows into bitterness. Pleasure is not the enemy, but the addiction to it is. When the mind is dominated by desire, it becomes like a pond stirred by the wind. No reflection can be seen on its surface. Then comes ill will, anger, resentment, frustration. A single spark of anger can burn down the entire forest of our clarity. The energy it brings is powerful, but directionless. It blinds, it distorts, and it imprisons us in a cycle of reaction. Imagine carrying a hot coal in your hand with the intent of throwing it at someone who burns first. We must learn not to suppress anger, but to see through it, to understand what lies beneath, and meet it not with judgment, but with presence. The third hindrance is sloth and torpor. It is the heaviness of the mind, the fog that makes everything seem pointless or dull. It is not just physical laziness, it is the sleep of the spirit. Self-mastery demands presence, and this fog is its enemy. It convinces us to settle, to stop reaching, to numb ourselves with distraction. But the way out is not to fight the heaviness. It is to become more awake, more aware, like lighting a lamp in a dark room, one moment at a time. Next comes restlessness and worry. The unsettled mind that jumps from thought to thought like a monkey leaping from branch to branch. It is anxiety about the future, regrets of the past. It is the inability to sit still, not just in body, but in being. Self-mastery is rooted in stability, in the ability to remain grounded when the winds of chaos blow. And so we train, not to stop the storm, but to find stillness in the eye of it. The final hindrance is doubt. It is not healthy skepticism, it is the kind of doubt that paralyzes. The voice that whispers, "Who do you think you are? What if you fail? What if none of this is real?" Doubt is a thief. It steals your energy, your clarity, your purpose. But doubt can also be a teacher. It shows us where our faith is weak, where our foundation is cracked. And so we look it in the eye, not with fear, but with curiosity. We learn to distinguish between the doubt that limits and the questioning that frees. Each of these 5 hindrances is not an enemy to be destroyed, but a mirror to be understood. They are not barriers to be climbed over, but doors we must walk through, because each one points to something deeper within us. And when we understand them, we begin to see that the path to self-mastery is not about conquering the mountain. It is about realizing that the mountain was always within us. And so, when we begin to walk the inner path, the journey towards self-mastery, we must first cultivate a kind of inner seeing, not the seeing with our eyes, but the seeing that emerges from stillness, from listening. Most people walk through life looking outward, reacting to circumstance, responding to noise, to praise, to criticism, to gain and loss. But the deeper journey begins when we stop and turn that gaze inward. It is there, in the silent chambers of our own mind, that the real terrain of self-mastery reveals itself. Each of these 5 hindrances, though they seem like enemies, are actually messengers. They knock at the door of our awareness, asking to be acknowledged, asking to be understood. But the mind that is distracted, the mind that is reactive, pushes them away, or worse, becomes entangled in them. Self-mastery is not the absence of these hindrances. It is the capacity to remain unshaken when they arise, to observe without identification, to feel without being overwhelmed. When sensual desire arises, we often mistake it for love, or passion, or inspiration. But it is important to see the difference. True inspiration uplifts. True love gives freedom. Desire binds. It wants to possess. It consumes without fulfillment. The more it is fed, the more it grows. And soon we find ourselves not walking the path, but chasing shadows. The secret lies in understanding the impermanence of pleasure, Everything that comes to delight the senses will eventually fade. To be at peace with this fading, that is strength. To enjoy a moment deeply without clinging to it, that is maturity. The fire of ill will often begins with a spark of misunderstanding, a word said the wrong way, a gesture misread, an unmet expectation, and instead of seeing clearly, we project stories. We turn people into enemies in our minds long before we speak a word aloud. But when we bring awareness to this process, we begin to understand that most of our anger does not come from others. It comes from within, from our own unmet fears, our own insecurities, our own need to control. Compassion is the antidote to ill will, not a weak compassion, not a compassion that tolerates harm, but a fierce and clear compassion that sees the other person as human, as struggling, as just as lost in the maze as we are. Sloth and torpor do not always wear the mask of tiredness. Sometimes they come disguised as comfort, as apathy, as a subtle voice that says, "What's the point?" But if you listen closely, underneath that voice is usually a deeper truth. Fear. The fear of failure, the fear of not being enough, the fear of facing what we have buried deep inside. So we choose the easier path, the path of less resistance, the path of least confrontation. But mastery demands discomfort. It demands that we sit with what we do not want to feel, that we show up even when motivation is absent, that we move forward even when the mind says stay. The discipline to rise, to act, to be fully present, that is what transforms sloth into energy. The restless mind is the most common experience of modern humanity. So many thoughts, so many voices, so many unfinished sentences swirling through the head. Even when we sit still, our mind runs marathons. What if this happens? What if that had gone differently? We jump between what was and what could be, and in doing so we miss what is. Restlessness is born from disconnection from the breath, from the body, from the moment. The practice is to return, not just once, but 1,000 times. To bring the mind back to now, to the texture of breath, to the beat of the heart, to the feeling of the ground beneath the feet. Each return is a victory. Each moment of stillness is a doorway into peace. Doubt is perhaps the subtlest of the 5 hindrances, because it dresses itself as intelligence. It questions everything, not with the aim of understanding, but with the aim of avoiding. Doubt says, "You're not ready." It says, "Others can, but not you." And if we listen, it grows roots. But the way through doubt is not to fight it. It is to stand in the middle of it and breathe. To ask, is this true? Is this helpful? What is this doubt trying to protect me from? Often, it is trying to protect us from disappointment, from taking a risk, from stepping into the unknown. But no great transformation happens inside certainty. Growth happens when we are willing to walk with uncertainty and still move forward. To master the self is to become familiar with these hindrances, not to eradicate them entirely, for they are part of the human experience, but to cultivate a deeper intimacy with their movements. When they arise, we don't panic. We observe. We reflect. We ask, what is being shown to me right now? Every hindrance is a mirror. If we are willing to look, we will see our own face, staring back. Not the face we show the world, but the one we hide, the one we ourselves have not yet fully embraced. Self-mastery is not about becoming invincible. It is not about becoming flawless. It is about becoming deeply human. It is about embracing the full spectrum of your experience, your rage and your peace, your desire and your detachment, your doubt and your clarity. To hold all of it with equanimity, to not cling to the highs or collapse in the lows, to remain centered in the middle of life's turbulence. Like a tree whose roots go deep, storms may bend it, but it does not break. And this centering is not achieved overnight. It is cultivated moment by moment, breath by breath, choice by choice. We choose awareness over reactivity. We choose patience over impulse. We choose presence over distraction. Not because it is easy, but because it is the only way to truly live. There will be times when the hindrances come like a storm. Days when the mind feels clouded, the heart heavy, the body weary. On those days, remember this: even the darkest cloud cannot block the sun forever. Behind every emotional state, there is stillness. Behind every thought, there is space. Behind every wave of suffering, there is a shore. And if you can stay with the discomfort long enough, if you can resist the urge to escape or numb or run, you will find something extraordinary. You will find yourself. Not the self defined by achievements or failures, not the self shaped by praise or rejection, but the deeper self, the self that watches, the self that knows, the self that is silent and vast and unshaken. That is the ground of self-mastery. It is not a product of effort alone, it is a result of surrender. Surrendering to the truth of what is, without trying to change it, without trying to hide it, without trying to fix it. In the end, this journey is not about arriving somewhere, it is about remembering. Remembering that you already possess what you are searching for, the clarity, the strength, the peace. They are not rewards you earn, they are qualities you uncover. Once the layers of noise and habit and fear are seen for what they are, impermanent visitors in the house of your being. To walk this path requires courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to meet it. It requires humility to know that you will fall, and that every fall is a lesson. And it requires love, not just for others but for yourself. A love that is patient, that does not demand perfection, but honors the process. So each day you return to the path. You breathe, you watch, you listen, you fall, and you rise again. You forget, and then you remember. And slowly, with each step, the mountain within becomes clearer. Not because the path is easy, but because you have become still enough to see it. And that is the essence of self-mastery. Not in conquering anything, but in being willing to meet yourself again and again, with honesty, with compassion, and with unwavering presence. The deeper we go on this path, the more we begin to see how layered the mind truly is. Thoughts arise not randomly, but from patterns forged over years, shaped by culture, upbringing, trauma, habit, and often these patterns run so deep that we don't even realize we are trapped within them. We think we are making choices, but we are merely repeating loops. The same anger, the same craving, the same hesitation, just with different faces, different situations. To master the self is to recognize these loops, and to begin patiently, gently to step outside of them. The first step is always awareness. Without awareness, nothing changes. The mind continues its old dance, and we continue following. But with awareness comes the possibility of freedom, and this freedom is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet. A single breath taken with presence is more powerful than hours spent lost in thought. Single moment of clarity in the middle of confusion is the seed of transformation. And so we return, again and again, to this moment, to this breath, to this body sitting here now. There is a strength that comes not from force but from stillness, from not reacting, from not needing to defend or explain. This strength is cultivated in silence, in solitude, in deep inner listening. The world teaches us to act, to achieve, to perform. But self-mastery teaches us to pause, to observe, to wait until the mind is calm before taking a step. Like water that settles after being stirred, the mind too finds clarity when we stop disturbing it. The 5 hindrances are not distractions from the path. They are the path. They are the exact material we must work with. Desire shows us where we still seek something outside ourselves. Ill will shows us where we still hold wounds that have not been met with compassion. Sloth reveals where we fear our own power, where we avoid the effort required to awaken. Restlessness shows where we have become disconnected from the moment. And doubt exposes where our faith in ourselves, or in life, is still incomplete. Each of these can become a doorway, but only if we are willing to stay present with what they bring up. Most people run, they distract themselves, they numb with entertainment, food, social media, constant movement. But the path to mastery asks us to do the opposite, to stop running, to turn toward the discomfort, to feel it fully, and in doing so, to let it pass through. No emotion, no thought, no sensation lasts forever. But when we resist, when we fight or flee, we give it more life. We become entangled. The way out is always through, and the key is attention. Pure, non-judging, honest attention. To sit with a restless mind and simply observe its movement is not easy, but it is powerful. To watch desire rise and fall without acting on it builds inner strength. To see anger and not fuel it, but instead breathe into it, opens the heart. To feel doubt and yet stay committed, that is courage. These moments are like forging steel. Heat, pressure, and stillness refine the blade. And the blade we are forging is the clarity of our own being. Clarity does not come all at once. It comes like light breaking through fog, slowly, gently, moment by moment. At first we may only catch glimpses, a few seconds of stillness, a breath of peace, a sudden understanding. But over time, these moments grow. They string together like beads, forming a thread of awareness that we can begin to trust. And as we trust it, we begin to live from it. Not just when meditating or reflecting, but in the middle of life, while speaking, while working, while listening to someone, while walking down the street. This is the true test of self-mastery. Not how we are when everything is quiet and peaceful, but how we are when life is messy and unpredictable, uncomfortable. Can we remain centered when someone criticizes us? Can we stay rooted when things don't go as planned? Can we respond with grace rather than react with habit? These are the moments that shape us. And yet, we must also learn to be kind to ourselves. Mastery is not a destination we arrive at. It is a process that unfolds over a lifetime. There will be days when the hindrances feel overwhelming, when the mind feels too noisy, the body too restless, the emotions too intense. These are not failures, these are invitations. Invitations to deepen our practice, to return again, to let go of perfection and instead embrace sincerity. It is not about getting it right, it is about showing up, again and again with honesty and humility. The ego often wants to take over this path, to turn self-mastery into another achievement, another identity. Look how calm I am, look how aware. But true mastery is invisible. It doesn't announce itself. It moves quietly, with presence and grace. It does not seek validation, because it knows its worth is not defined by comparison. The moment we begin to compare ourselves to others, how far along we are, how much progress we've made, we've already stepped away from the path. Each person walks their own mountain, each person faces their own weather, and so we must walk with patience, with persistence, with a deep trust that even if we cannot see the full path, even if we do not feel the summit, every step matters. Every moment of awareness, every breath taken in presence, every time we choose stillness over reaction, that is the path. We are not climbing the mountain to find something new. We are climbing to remember something ancient, something already within us. There is a silence deeper than words, a peace deeper than pleasure, a knowing deeper than thought. It is found not by escaping the world, but by meeting it fully, with open eyes, open heart, open hands. When the hindrances arise, we do not push them away. We bow to them, we thank them for showing us where we are still growing. And then gently, we return to the breath. We return to the body. We return to this moment. And in that return, we find ourselves not the small self shaped by fears and habits, but the vast self that is always here, quietly watching, patiently waiting for us to remember. So in the end, self-mastery is not about controlling the world around us, it is about understanding the world within. These 5 hindrances are not obstacles to be hated or feared, but teachers to be studied. They show us our attachments, our aversions, our doubts, our distractions, our resistance to effort, and through them, if we are willing, we are shaped, not into someone new, but into someone more real. The path is long, it is quiet, and it asks everything of us. But what it gives in return is something no one else can offer. The ability to walk through life with clarity, with balance, with freedom. Not because the storms no longer come, but because you have learned how to remain still in the center of them. So you walk step by step through desire, through anger, through laziness, through anxiety, through doubt, until one day you realize the summit was never above you. It was always beneath your feet.